Hey everyone, welcome to the Elite Real Estate Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Sam Popple, along with my co-host and best friend, William McClelland. What's going on, Will?
What's happening? Dude,
hey man,
just excited.
Definitely.
Excited like every week that we get to connect and meet, really cool people. And yeah. What about you?
Dude, man, no, I'm definitely excited about today's episode because I think this guy's gonna really help bring some knowledge to an area that neither you or I really know the inner workings of. We both needed mortgages, but we've never did a mortgage on our end, so it's kind of cool that we're meeting this person. Today we're bringing on one of our new friends, Albert Sousa. That's one of the beauties of this podcast is we get to meet a lot of cool people, and sometimes we're connected through other people we know. And so a previous guest introduced us to Albert. Albert loves helping people with finances. He is the founder of Mortgage Apex. That's his lending company. So really cool. He is also one of the co-founders of Pints and Properties and runs that meetup over in Fort Walton. So really awesome. Also really cool that he has his own real estate meetup. He was in the 40 under 40. He was elected to the Fort Walton Beach Chamber of Commerce board this year, and he is a previous head of the Young Professionals. So without further ado, welcome Albert to the Elite Real Estate Podcast.
All right. What's up, guys? Sam and Will, thank you so much for having me. I'm honored to be here and learn a little bit about you guys and maybe tell my story as well.
Yeah, man. No, we're definitely excited to hear your background. You definitely have accomplished a whole lot for being so young, and so we really I got a pen and paper out. I know Will is big on taking notes as well. So we're ready to kind of sit back and learn from you.
All right, awesome. Well, hey, I'm ready to hit you or to answer the questions and also just have an awesome conversation. And it's really cool that we have this medium where we get to connect. We get to know each other, but then at the same time, we're providing value for other folks too. So I think it's pretty awesome we're doing this.
Totally. Yeah. That's the biggest win. And I don't know, it's like my favorite part of the week. Not only do I get to connect with Sam each week, but we get to meet cool people like you. And then the most important part is I always write down these little golden nuggets, right? And then we're, reshare those and hopefully giving someone at least the encouragement to get started if that's what they want to do, or at least just the knowledge and another option, right? So it's pretty sweet, which I know you do with Pints and Properties. If you want to talk a little bit about that for people who maybe not aren't aware of what it is. Totally,
yeah. So Pints and Properties was created by Shelby Osborne, and I met her actually at a mastermind that we went to. We'll talk about that too, the power of going to these groups and everything and meeting other people. But so I met her, and she started this Pints and Properties, and she was like, hey, we want to grow this thing, and if you want to be a host, just let me know. So that was right around the time when I was opening up my office, and we wanted to make a splash. So I was like, that's awesome. I love real estate. I want to be around people who love real estate. Went to a couple other meetups, and there were some out there, but just not quite exactly the vibe I was looking for. So I was like, hey, let's make our own. Let's do it. So we did it. That was about 2 years ago. And we've had a meeting every month ever since. And it's been very rewarding, knowing that we're helping provide education for folks. We work hard to get good speakers, get folks out here. And then also just seeing the connections happen. Like we've had lots of people that have made connections with, be it insurance agents, made partnerships. I think there's been some private money that's gone around from this. So just knowing that we've helped foster that is really awesome and makes it all worth it, honestly.
Dude, that's really, really cool. I want to kind of highlight just the point that in what you said for everyone else, just because, one of the reasons Will and I started this podcast was to create a stage, to meet, network, and eventually build a bit of, something, bigger in the future, to do with real estate. But I like how right when you were starting your mortgage company, you knew one of the best places to probably market would be a real estate meetup. So you go, get in on the ground floor. And now who's probably the first guy to, get the option to, lend the money to most of the people is, the guy who's, trusted and leads the pack. So, I think that's a beautiful business marketing, of how you got started. I think that's an awesome tidbit right there off the top.
Yeah. Hey, it's a beautiful thing about business in general. That's what I love about it is, it doesn't have to be me winning and you losing. It's win, win, win. Right. So I've quit doing the math on how many, dollars have come in our doors from Pints and Properties. That's all icing on the cake. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, people do think of us. And honestly, I was surprised when I reached out to Shelby about being a host and found out that every single other person who is a host of Ponson Properties is either a realtor or a real estate investor. And I was the only person on the mortgage side that hosted this. And I'm like, man, this is totally untapped opportunity here, because now, we're also providing an opportunity for realtors to come and meet investors. And so it's been transformational for our business, honestly.
I love it. I think that's beautiful. Yeah.
And that's why we're so excited, to your point right there, to have you. Is you're really our first lender that we've had on from more the investment side. We've had one other guest as well, but we're really hoping to dive deep today with you. So you guys ready to hop in?
Let's do it.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about you, man, and life before real estate. I know you have some cool, fun stories about finances too, of what kind of maybe led you here. So just kind of let the listeners know about your childhood, college, how you grew up, where you're from, things like that.
Yeah, I will try to speed through some of this. So it was a dark night. It was a dark. I'm just kidding. I was born in Panama City, so at Tyndall Air Force Base, not too far from here. My dad was Air Force. My dad met my mom in Okinawa, and so she basically, I kind of came from like a dual immigrant background in a sense. My mom, she speaks perfect English. She was raised in Okinawa, so she speaks Japanese and English. My dad, he was first generation here, or I guess second generation. He was born in the States, but his parents came over from Portugal. So, they met in the Air Force. I was born in Panama City. We moved around a little bit and ended up here at Eglin Air Force Base. And then my dad did a couple of remotes and then ended up retiring. So I've been here since I was in second grade.
Nice.
And I would say we pretty much came from a very just a middle-class family, pretty much middle of the road. So we were never for a long time, never really super wealthy or struggling with money. Money wasn't really at the forefront, I guess, for a long time. It was just kind of in the background. But my parents were always very hard workers. I think it kind of comes a little bit from that immigrant mindset. And so, they would do extra things, kind of side hustle now is what you would, say, or how you would say it now. But, they sold random things at festivals before. They did a flip, which was, we can talk about that a little bit too, when I was in middle school, which I think kind of unlocked something in my brain there. But they've always been hard workers. And my grandfather, being from Portugal, he came over and then he literally built a couple houses and then rented them out, apartments and all that. So I kind of knew in the back of my mind that real estate was something that I wanted to do, buy rental properties, but I didn't really know why or all of the real benefits until later in life. So fast forwarding, I went to Catholic school, then I went to public school at Choctaw, and that's probably the first time that I saw money, I guess, because going to Catholic school, I was around a lot of kids who had money, honestly. And I felt like we were definitely on the poor side, because there was some wealthy people that went to school there. And then I went to public school and I realized we're actually totally normal, if not better than that. And there's some folks that are, way up here and way down here. So that was kind of the first time I was not everyone is exactly like this little bubble of mine. So then fast forward a little bit further, and we got to the point where I was getting ready to graduate, didn't know what I wanted to do for school. And my mom and dad decided to start a business, which my mom still has this business called Visiting You Senior Home Care, where she sends caregivers to go help with seniors. So she started that business, and my dad was supposed to retire 2 years later, but the military changed things, and all of a sudden he had to retire 2 years earlier. So they started a business, he retired at the same time. So, and that was right when I was around 18. And so I saw their finances change very, very quickly. And they literally started this business on a credit card and just had to make it work. So I watched that, and then, there were some tough times there, but then I saw them exit the other side, and now they're doing very well. They've got their dream house on the water, and that's been, many years in the making. But basically just seeing that sometimes you got to risk it for the biscuit, and it actually works if you put in the work and if you make it happen. And if you really just don't have a backup plan. So I'm a big believer of that. So I went to college for just a short period of time at Northwest Florida State College for a year and like beginning of the next semester. And I'll never forget, I was in a geology class learning about rocks, and I was reading Rich Dad Poor Dad. Somebody gave it to me. They're like, hey, you should read this book. And probably the worst possible book to give to somebody who hates school and is learning about rocks. Because as soon as I read that, I was like, oh, I'm done with this. I'm quit. I'm going to be my own boss. So, I dropped
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, how many other people have done that? So,
no, seriously, just on this podcast, you're probably
Right.
like the 6th or 7th guest that's mentioned that book specifically. You know, we just talked about it last weekend, so it's getting. You know,
I'd actually go further than that. Well, I'd say at least 1 out of 2 guests. Like at least 1 out of 2.
It's crazy.
But yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, so
it's dangerous.
I dropped out.
Dangerous book for geology class for sure.
It is. I tell everybody, hey, you should read it. But I'm like, if you're in college and you really want to finish, maybe don't. Maybe hold off for a little bit. But no, so I read it. I quit. And I didn't even know what I wanted to do just yet. But I knew I wanted to do something. And so my first business endeavor was I was sitting in my barber shop at the time. I was 19 years old. And I was like, man, I'm thirsty. And there was just like this beam of light going in the corner where there's this empty space. I was like, we should have a vending machine right there. And so then I was talking to my barber, who was also the manager. And I was like, hey, would you be interested in, having a vending machine here? She was like, yeah, I don't see why not. So then I went on Craigslist, found my first vending machine, Googled how to create an LLC and all this. And like a month later, that was my first vending machine and created a business. So I ended up like 5 years down the road, got to the point where we were doing like 60 grand in sales on that business, which for a vending machine company is pretty good, especially for being young. And dude, it taught me so many lessons.
Yeah,
that's a lot of candy bars to sell.
That's impressive. Yeah, I mean, 60 grand and $1.50, $2 items is a lot of inventory to move.
Yeah. Hey, if it weren't for water, we wouldn't have made nearly as much profit. But water was our moneymaker.
Oh, I bet.
Hey, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So
what happened to that business?
So I did that, and then I sold it right before I moved to Charlotte, which is where I cut my teeth in the mortgage business. I started dating my wife, girlfriend at the time, now wife, and her dad is big in the mortgage business. And he said, hey, Albert, getting to know you, you seem like you're pretty good with people. Seems like you're interested in numbers. You got drive. You should be a loan officer. And because he trains and travels all over the country. And I was like, okay, like I don't really have anything else. Like I'm getting kind of tired of doing this vending machine thing. Let's do it. So sold it, moved to North Carolina, learned from a couple of big online lenders, like the online lenders people tell you not to use. People go on a lending tree and they're saying, hey, I want a mortgage, and you're duking it out with 5 other lenders trying to earn that business. So it really taught me sales. I got a ton of reps under my belt and did that for about 2 years. Then Dale, my father-in-law, said, hey, you know the business pretty well now. You've done well. Do you want to come join me on my team and, travel all the country and do some consulting and training? So I was kind of like a junior consultant, got to travel all over. And then when COVID happened, I loved that because I love people, love kind of fast-paced things. COVID happened, no more traveling. And so that was my calling to say, hey, I got to do something different. And it's funny. I remember driving down the road to go to our house, me and my wife, and I was just losing my mind. I was on Zoom call after Zoom call. And I was like, Jess, I got to do something maybe I need to start a pressure washing business or maybe a landscaping business, just something. And she's like, why don't you just start a mortgage business? You already know the mortgage business so well. I was like, oh yeah, that's a good idea. So shout out to my wife for
at a historic low, right? So what a time to start a business at historic low rates, just exponential growth, right?
Totally, yeah. And I really, really am thankful for that because rates were low. Literally, you could throw a rock, and if you hit somebody who had a mortgage, then you could refinance them because rates were lower than they've ever been. So for the first year to year and a half, I literally did 2 or 3 loans for friends and family. And then every other loan that I did after that was because they were word of mouth referring me to somebody else. And so I didn't do a lick of advertising. I did almost all refinances for that first year. And it was all just hey, you got to get in touch with my friend, or you got to get in touch with my brother. And super thankful for that. was able to save the capital to open this place. And this place was a total dump. We totally revamped it, made it look cool. And that's kind of part of my vision is I wanted to make something where like people would want to come work and like make it really easy for people to be excited to come to your office and meet with you.
Did you end up buying your office building or?
I didn't. I wish. No, I negotiated rent credits, but this building is part of like 8 others. And hey, every like few months, I'll tell the property manager, I'm like, hey, you know, if you ever want to sell the property, let me know. But she's an out-of-state owner, so we'll see.
She likes to collect those checks. So I was
those rent checks.
Yeah, I was about to ask you, you know, a little bit about who inspired you, you know, early on. But I was wanting to, you know, kind of talk about any nuggets. You know, let Will bring up any that he saw. One I just kind of wanted to, you know, bring up was just the fact that, you know, I think it's cool how, you know, you just jumped into the, you know, the flows. Like you learned a little bit, jumped in, you know, and then then it's you know, it seems like, you know, your father-in-law, you know, was a real good, you know, positive influence. It sounds like you kind of, you know, met his daughter and met him all kind of at a really great time in your life, you know, because you know, it seems like you know, he had a real good influence. So kind of like, and that I was going to say is just, you know, the power of connections, you know, letting people, you know, see your work ethic, you know, and sometimes it takes someone being a little bit closer, you know. So I'm sure your father-in-law was asking, you know, your girlfriend at the time. So what's this guy? You know, is he a go-getter or is he lazy? I'm sure she put in some good words, you know, for you. But yeah, I just think that's really cool about how you know, took advantage, you know, of every opportunity along the way, and kind of what you said in the beginning was definitely hit home with me is you had no plan B, you know, so it was just plan.
Oh man, that was a nugget for me.
I thought you were going to bring that. That's why I was opening the door there. Yeah.
I was going to like that was the nugget that I loved. You just came out hard with it. It's like, look, you can't have a backup plan, and if you don't have a backup plan, you're gonna figure something out to make it work because you have to, right? Right. Another nugget, just personally, is I also lived in Okinawa for 2.5 years. My dad was in the Marine Corps, so, but that's just a personal nugget. But I thought that was cool.
And then one more takeaway is, you know, just I think it's cool that, you know, how much you observed, you know, your parents starting that business and how, you know, because most people like his parents start something, you know, they as the child, you're kind of like, you know, whatever, you know, it's happening. But I think it's really cool how you kind of made a mental note of the initial sacrifice and risk they took, you know, putting it all on the credit card. And then, you know, obviously everything, you know, worked out over time. You know, they went all in, and, you know, now they're successful in water. But I mean, I think that's, you know, really cool. But now on to kind of like my next question. You know, I always ask, you know, was there anyone early in your life that inspired you to get into real estate? And you kind of brought up your grandfather a little bit. So tell us about him, and then kind of anyone else that, you know, really let you know that real estate was the way.
Yeah, totally. So there's a couple of people that come to mind. My grandfather first, he was the one who first kind of planted the seed of like, oh, you know, get real estate. And he actually like house hacked before house hacking was a thing. When they lived in New Jersey, I believe he bought an 8-plex. It was either a 6 or 8-plex, and they lived in one unit and then rented out the rest. And he ended up paying off the thing in like 6 years because he was just like, you know, just saving every single dollar. Which is pretty cool. But you know, just hearing stories like that, I'm like, oh man, that's really cool. And like at a young age, it kind of did something for me. But my parents are next. I told you they did that flip when I was in 6th grade. Going back, like even when you factor in like free labor, I don't think they made any money. But that said, it definitely was like, you know, putting information in my brain, and I'm like, oh, you can get this, make it better, and then make money. It's kind of like seeing that whole cycle. And so, like I was doing like painting and just random landscaping and stuff in Crestview. But that was one. And then like, because they were in that mindset, driving to and from Palm Beach to Crestview, like on the weekends, because they were doing everything themselves. They were like listening to Carlton Sheets. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but he was like the OG, you know, positive cash flow guy. So they had like all the CDs, and I'm like probably like 10 or 11 years old. And they probably think that I'm just like playing my Game Boy, but somewhere it's like downloading in my brain, positive cash flow and like all this. We played Monopoly a lot growing up. So I think that was like a big part of it. and like hearing these people that are like, I was a teacher and now I have 11 rental properties and like I can make, so it just got me excited, I think. And then also Jay Ghosh, I worked for him at the bingo hall on Racetrack Road. And so that's where I worked. And then I had the vending machine as a side hustle. And so finally I got some vending machines in his business, but he owns tons of real estate. And so I would always ask him like, oh, you know, anytime he brings up anything real estate related, it would pique my interest. So I've called him, probably a dozen times in the beginning and saying like, hey, I'm buying my first house. Can you help me with this or that? Or do you have a good inspector to recommend? And just seeing him, like he is from India. He came over, he started a payphone business. And then now he's got tons of real estate and businesses and all that. So just seeing that, like that it's not just somebody in a book. It's not a figment of my imagination. It's real people that I know in this country that have really made a life for themselves. And I think that it's a real hack when you start young, because then you have the power of compound interest to kick in. And like guys like us, we're front loading right now so that we can really enjoy ourselves later, versus what, a lot of other people are doing is just spending all their income, having fun now, but then they're going to continue to work until they die.
Sure.
We're all about
Talk
that.
a little bit about
delayed gratification.
Dude. Sam and I are on it.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about that, because that's something that Sam and I seem to frequent whenever we're talking. Because Sam, as much as I would love to have some crazy sports car and a house on the water, I'd really love to have that with a family. So I'm okay with having things that I don't have any payments on, right? And I think you had mentioned something about a little story that you had about like reducing a car payment, and then your friends kind of did it. Same thing, right? So it's like, is it really worth to have it and keep up with the Joneses right now, or do I just not want to work in a decade and then really enjoy that? Yeah. So what are your thoughts on that? Because obviously you're living it right now, just based off of the last 25 minutes of us chatting.
Yeah, delayed gratification is huge. I listened to Bigger Pockets. One time a guy brought this up and it stuck in my mind. If anybody ever played the game Plants and Zombies, you have to like create these little armies that attack guys. But the key is you have to create sunflowers in the beginning, which are kind of like your farms to generate income. And if you don't do that, then you're gonna die. Similar to like Monopoly. If you don't buy properties, you're gonna run out of money. So I think the really important thing is in the beginning, taking all of that extra income and dumping it into something that is going to generate you income, and then it just runs on autopilot. All of the listeners probably understand that. But the key is reminding yourself and rewarding yourself a little bit too, but reminding yourself that, every dollar that I put in here is going to be $10 in the future. So that's huge. And I want to shout out to my wife on this. She totally gets it. We've done where we've moved into a house, lived in it for a year or two, rented it out, moved into a house, lived in it, rented it out. So we've done that a few times now. And moving's not fun. So, but we see that light at the end of the tunnel, and we see the benefit on it with that. And same with like cars, like we don't need to have like the most flashy, amazing cars. I try to avoid payments like the plague. I try to avoid depreciation like the plague. So all of our cars are Japanese cars that have like very low depreciation. Like Toyota Tacoma, I think for like 10 years in a row has been like one of the least depreciating cars. It's kind of like buying real estate. And every time you make a payment, you have a payment.
I pointed out a Tacoma will depreciate only about $1,000 a year if you drive it.
It's crazy.
It's the craziest car like went out there for low depreciation model.
Yeah.
Because I had a buddy one time looking at one, used, and after we ran the numbers, it was like, dude, you might as well just buy it new. Like I'm just like at the time he would look at it, because it was like he'd buy the used one for just $1,000 off for each year, or go and get a new one with full warranties. So it's that, if we're gonna spend the money, let's spend the money on something that's gonna build value, or build equity, or at least hold value. So that's one thing. And then with the Ford Ranger thing, this was kind of one of the things that made me realize shortly before I got into the mortgage business that I wanted to help influence folks and help them with their finances, because I actually went on a trip to Japan. This was in 2016, and I had a delicious bottle of wine, and it was like, probably $100, $200, whatever.
And I came back and I realized I was like, man, that bottle of wine was like a memory, and I really, really enjoyed it. And my car is like $300 something a month. And I mean, yeah, it's cool, but it's not like, anything game changing. So it was that caused me to say, kind of relook at everything and decide, hey, I'm going to sell this car, take, the little bit of money that I have on it, and then purchase just like a beater. I think I got a Ford Ranger for like $2,000 or something. And I just kind of shared that story with a couple of coworkers. And I shit you not, like 3 months later, there was, I could think, either 2 or 3 other guys that bought Ford Rangers. So we were like the Ranger crew, which was pretty cool. And it was awesome because, like, hey, I was like, not only do we all have the same car, but also I know everybody's saving extra money, and hopefully you're taking that money and you're dumping it into stocks and wherever else, whatever your investments are. At that time, I was into stocks. So, and I was like, hey, once in a while, I'll treat myself with a nice bottle of wine, and we'll even, it's a win-win.
No, I love it. Now, for the listeners, he's not saying get rid of your car payment to buy bottles of wine.
Yeah, that was the catalyst. But yeah, exactly. If you buy bottles of wine, you're probably better off just actually keeping the car payment.
No, that is so cool, because I love to hear like life-changing moments for people when they're having, that real, I don't know, sometimes I feel like it's like this out of body or euphoric idea, and sometimes it's listening to a book, reading a book, sometimes you're just driving in a car, or you have some type of nice experience on a vacation or something like that, and then it's like totally changes the course of how you are living your life, or what you're doing to change your life. And that's really cool that you had this whole mindset shift, coming back from a vacation. You had this really great experience, and it's like, hey, I'd rather live my life with great experiences and learn how to reinvest so I can have more of these. That's really cool. Yeah. So I think something really interesting, especially because you're on the mortgage side, how are you finding money to start these businesses? I know you said you were at the barbershop and then you're like, oh man, I'm thirsty. Let me get a vending machine. You're probably scouting those out all online. But then to scale that, how'd you do that? And then also moving into the mortgage side, I know that you had the knowledge, but there has to be some sort of startup costs that I'm sure a lot of people are interested or sometimes scared to take that leap, because either finances or, just being reserved, not having that fallback plan, like you said earlier.
Yeah, that's a great question. So in the beginning with the vending machines, that was all just bootstrap, try to, find it, make it happen, save money, buy machines, all that. Nice. Around that time, 2015, the summer of 2015, there was a correction in the stock market. And around that time is when I got like really obsessed with stocks. And so I was just like dumping every extra penny that I had into that, and then reading about stocks. And then that's kind of what led me to get a little bit more interested in finances, and et cetera. So fast forward to when I was ready to start my mortgage company, I had a nice little nest egg of stocks in a portfolio. And so I was like, hey, these stocks, they might increase 10%. Maybe if I do amazing, 20% per year, like that would be like, the best returns ever. Or I could take these dollars and put it to work investing in myself, and maybe I could 10x it or more. So that was kind of how I got started. It wasn't anything crazy. It probably was, I want to say it was like around $25,000 to $30,000 is how I got started. I think it was right around 25,000. The hardest part was, it was July of 2020 when I kind of officially got my LLC started and started that process. Getting licensed took a really long time, and I didn't get my license to go active until basically January 1st, 2021. So I had 5 months where I was just sitting on my hands. Luckily, I'm not good at sitting on my hands. I figured out that you could buy weights on Facebook Marketplace, because everybody wanted weights during COVID, and weights are like a commodity. You're always going to be able to sell weights for $1 a pound. So I would just zoom in on the pictures, and if it was like less than $1 a pound, I'd buy it and I'd resell it. So that was what I was doing because I was bored and like making extra money.
Love it.
But I had to have money to basically carry me in that gap. And then when we started, then I was able to get going. But the other key piece of it is having my wife with her salary kind of to fall back on and have that in the background. That was helpful, and also having a nest egg too, to kind of just weather that storm. But for folks looking to get started, it's not too much. Like, I don't have to save up $300,000 to write a check to somebody to buy their house. That's probably one of the big common misconceptions. I wish I had that money. But what I do on the brokerage side of things is I basically create partnerships with wholesale lenders. So once you go through all the proper steps to become a brokerage, then it unlocks your ability to talk with these wholesale lenders who don't interface with the public whatsoever. They only work with brokers. And then once I create those partnerships, a lot of these brokers, they've got these wholesale lenders, they actually have retail arms too. So like Rocket Mortgage, for example, is a big one. They will lend directly to the public, but then they've also got this like basically unlimited checkbook where they can write more mortgages. It's just a matter of finding more clients. So they open up their doors to brokers and say, hey, if you bring us the business, then we will do the underwriting and we'll do some of the other back end stuff and we'll provide the money. And then all you have to do is kind of work that loan. And so that's really what we're doing is we're creating these partnerships with these wholesale lenders. We're doing the work, we're sourcing the loan, and then at closing, when that closes, we make a spread, like basically a percentage of the loan amount up front. So that's how that works. Luckily we didn't have to, save the money to write the check for the house. Otherwise I probably wouldn't be here.
No, that's really cool, because I think something that sparked right there for me, it's everyone's always the easiest access into real estate is wholesaling and things like that. And then you had mentioned a number of times you're working with these wholesale dealers and you're making a small percentage by doing the majority of the legwork, which kind of is like what we're traditionally thinking about as wholesalers in real estate. Is they're finding this distressed property, then they're listing it, marketing it, and then trying to work and ensure that the end buyer and the seller, it's a win for the seller, and then the end buyer will have a large enough spread to do a fix and flip. Generally, there's other different types, but in your scenario, you're kind of wholesaling the mortgages for people to, buy their first home, their dream home, things like that. So this is like really, really cool. And I knew one person from Tampa Bay area who ended up having a really large mortgage business, and he said it was all scalable, kind of like that. He would get people, and he kind of built his team, and he was doing some very similar things where he was working with larger brokers, and they were just kind of doing the legwork. So that kind of brings me to a new point: is there like some sort of, I know the MLS exam is difficult, but outside of that, is there kind of like a barrier to entry on why a lot of people maybe don't get into real estate this side?
That's a good question. As far as being just an originator, yeah, you have to pass the exam, which is not easy, but not crazy hard, if you study. And then there's some CE requirements similar to being a realtor. But when you actually have to start your own brokerage, it's different by state. But typically, they're going to require you to have at least a year of experience. Some states will require more in order to be the principal broker and to start it. And then number two is you have to have certain net worth requirements, which also vary by state. There's some liquid capital requirements as well as like overall net worth, which my real estate helped me with that. And then some additional like insurance and there's definitely like you're going to have a few $1,000s going out every month just in like insurance, your tech stack. So there is a barrier to entry in the sense that like, you got to have loans coming through the door, just to break even. So, yeah.
But that's also kind of like if you're a wholesaler and you're trying to generate leads and things, there's money coming out that way. So I just think it's really interesting. Everyone's using.
What are the well, I was going to ask, what are the capital requirements, just for an example, for like the state of Florida?
Yeah, state of Florida is $50,000 for net worth, and then I just did North Carolina, and North Carolina was, I believe, $25,000 liquid. So that was a little different.
Not impossible.
No, not at all. It was liquid in the LLC, so you have to make sure that which was fine for me because we already had the business. But if not, then I would have had to transfer it in and all that. So, but before I bought real estate, I had negative net worth. So real estate was a huge help there.
Dude, that's really cool. And you're licensed in Florida, Alabama, and you said now North Carolina. Is there anywhere else?
Yes, that's those 3 states.
Perfect.
However,
we have
for business purpose loans, and we can talk a little about this too.
Definitely.
This is loans for people who are buying an LLC or doing like a DSCR loan, which is like a cash flow loan. We can do that in about 40 states.
Oh, that's perfect. Let the listeners know. It popped up on a couple episodes again about a DSCR loan and how it's cash flow based. Kind of go through that for some of the listeners that might not even have ever heard of that product.
Yeah. What's it stand for?
Yeah, so it stands for debt service coverage ratio. So I'm going to kind of take just a step back and say, you've got your traditional mortgages through Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, VA, FHA, and there's a certain set of guidelines. And once you fall outside of that certain set of guidelines, maybe you bought too many properties and now your DTI is too high, or maybe you've got 10 and so they said, hey, we're not giving you any more government-backed mortgages, or maybe you just your income's really complicated, so you don't want to have that lender dig into your income. Instead of us looking at you, Sam, as a person, this DSCR loan, debt service coverage ratio, will look at the property or the LLC. So basically, if I'm looking at 123 Main Street and the mortgage is going to be $1,000 and it's renting out for $1,500, we'll fund that every day of the week. Now, yeah, you're going to have to put some money down. And, this is going to be a little different than some of the other loans. Sometimes you got to put 15%, sometimes 20, sometimes 25. But we got to make sure that it cash flows. So easier said than done in certain properties. So take a multifamily property. That's super easy to cash flow. That's really common. But then you take a condo. Used to be you could cash flow a lot easier, but now rates have gone up. Condos on the beach have gotten a lot more expensive because a lot of people are, able to work from home and all that. So, we've seen condo prices probably double to triple. And so now you're in a position where they might not cash flow. So that just means you have to put more money down on the mortgage to lower that loan amount and, make it so that it does cash flow. So that's what the DSCR loan is. It's a really awesome instrument for people who, like I said, have pretty complicated numbers. And honestly, it used to be that DSCR loans were about 1% higher. So if you went and got a mortgage for 5% from your regular traditional mortgage, then your DSCR loan might be 6 or 6.5%. Now they're pretty close. They've gotten to be a lot more competitive twofold because they're being used a lot more and they're more understood. Investors are more comfortable with backing those private investors. And two, they are basically like Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac. You heard about those things on the news where they said people with higher scores are going to pay more than people with lower scores. Basically what they're doing is they're saying we're going to charge a little more to investors because the government doesn't really care about investors, and make it a little easier for primary residence folks to buy a home. So because they've kind of pushed some of those costs to the investor on the government side, then now the private side is starting to look a little sexier. So there's a couple of things happening, but we do lots of DSCR loans, and they're usually pretty simple, honestly.
No, those are great. Cool. I was just asking you to tell it for our guests. I got 3 of them myself.
Nice.
For the complicated income question that you said, it's definitely great. Not having to send a tax return, just showing them, hey, this is the property. Here's a lease I have with what the rent's going to be, and yeah, like you said, it's pretty smooth sailing as long as you can show you got 6 months payments in the bank.
Yeah, totally.
Mm-hmm.
So what's life like today? What is your career? How is Mortgage Apex running? What type of investments? What type of things are you doing inside and outside the business?
Yeah, that's a great question. A lot to unpack there. So one is this is front and center. We're having a baby in about a month.
Oh, man.
Yeah, thank you. First kid, it'll be a son, and I'm really excited to have him come on board. But our lives are going to change, so it's forcing me.
Your first child is a masculine child.
Yeah.
We're talking Enzos earlier, So.
No, I'm right there with you, and honestly, I have 2 little brothers, and then my wife has 3 big brothers. So I was so relieved to have a boy, just because it's like, this is familiar, like at least one less thing that's foreign compared to having a girl. But with having a baby on the way, it's like so at the forefront of like, hey, I'm gonna have to. I can't go all in with my attention on the business anymore. I'm gonna be forced to pull back and support my family and all that. So I've been really trying to key in on ways that the business can run better without me, and also so that means like pouring into my team, and also trying to at the same time like grow the business or at least prevent it from decreasing. We've been really fortunate because Mortgage Apex is about like, as of August, we surpassed what we did. The beginning of August, we surpassed what we did for the previous year. And then the previous year before that, we tripled what we did for the previous year. So we should end the year up like 40-50%, which has been pretty cool, especially
especially in the economy. Yeah, especially in this economy when the things have slowed down. That's amazing. You guys are still growing at that speed.
Yeah, and honestly, I think a big part of it is that I had a conversation with somebody, and he was like, "Oh yeah, you're going to have to hit your $1 million in revenue mark." And I was like, "Oh, that's still a ways away." And he's like, "I don't know, man. It's not that hard. Just do the math and like figure out, what you got to do to get there." So I was on a flight. I was doing the math. I was like, all right, $1 million means I got to do this many loans and all this. And then I was like, oh, that's actually not as hard as I thought. So I think the first step is believing it and then having a path to get there and working backwards. So that's been huge, just having that vision and getting there. But so wife's having a baby. Our lives are going to change. And we're really just trying to I'm trying to really lean into like my superpowers as well. Somebody brought that up, like, hey, everyone has a superpower or 2. So let's lean into that, find what we're good at. So I did it was like a MLS home tour where some agents looked at different homes and that were for sale, and we sponsored it. And I was like, instead of, doing our normal thing, we're just like, hey, here's the programs we have. I'm going to actually teach everybody how like the Fed funds rate works and, how inflation affects everything. And I had so many people come up to me and they're like, man, that was awesome. Like I learned so much. And I've had lots of realtors hitting me up after that. And so on my personal side, I want to get even better at the public speaking side of things, because I think, it's cool to work on your weaknesses, but when you work on your strengths, man, you're like, it's like cheating, So I want to do whatever I got to do to like have that cheater's edge almost and just win. So that's kind of my focus. Number one.
Sometimes it's a lot easier to double down on what you're good at than trying to learn something you're bad at.
Totally. Yeah, totally. And then number 2 is this business can be really chaotic. So another thing I'm focusing on is just trying to have a little bit of inner peace. So I've been waking up in the morning, and that's like just totally me time. It was difficult at first, but now I'm loving it. And I think it's really making me be a better person. And shout out to my friend Dustin, who kind of encouraged me to do this. He was like, I promise you're going to be a better father if you wake up in the morning and you have like even just like 15 or 30 minutes of quiet time. You're going to be able to take that extra second when maybe you would have lost your patience if you didn't have that. So I really heard that. And so I'm trying to live that too in my personal life.
That's awesome, man. You got a lot of that stuff coming up on the.
Definitely.
A lot of stuff.
Yeah. Oh, and then this is in my background, so I want to shout this out. I've loved cars since I was a little kid. Like my dream car is Lamborghini Diablo. I love going fast. When I lived in Charlotte, I did a lot of kart racing at the GoPro kart track there. And so I've got this like sim racing rig back here where it's got triple screens and you can race with it's got like vibration, force feedback, all that. I love doing that. I still love kart racing. But one of the things I'm really excited about with having a kid is hopefully he'll be into racing too. And then we can get a kart and then not only go and race on the weekends and all that, but also like work on the kart and like change the oil and do all that. So I'm trying to like find the things that really get me fired up and like be more intentional with making sure they're in my life.
Dude, that's cool. So awesome. Yeah, no, definitely love hearing people find their passions and figure out what's going to keep them driving on the day to day. What's your goal for like the next 12 months and either for you in real estate or for the business? Besides being an awesome dad.
Yeah, we haven't talked too much about the real estate side. So, excuse me, I bought my first house in 2017. I rented that out for a few years because I was supposed to, and actually house hacked it in the beginning. Moved out of it, rented it out when I was living in Charlotte. Then my wife and I bought that house, and then we in Santa Rosa Beach. We moved out of that, turned that into a rental. That's been awesome. Then bought one more in Fort Walton. Lived in that for about a year and a half, and then now we moved into the house we're in now. So we've got two single family house rentals, and then we sold that house that I originally bought it for 150 back in 2017, sold it for 285 in 2022. And my parents actually also sold an investment property right around the same time. So we were both sitting on cash and saw this fourplex pop up, and I couldn't take it down myself. And so I was like, hey, do you guys want to go in on this together? So we're 50-50 owners on a fourplex here in town, and it does pretty well. On the horizon there, I'd like to get one more property. I really want to buy something with private money where we can like raise funds to do rehab, because I've got some awesome connections through Pine Properties that I probably could say, hey, I need some money for this deal, and I feel pretty confident that I would get the money that I need. So I want to lean into that and use that. So I'm just kind of waiting to see something that is right. And that's really my next big endeavor. Something I want to take care of this next year is buy something where, I maybe have to go out of the pocket for the down payment or half the down payment, but I don't have to come out of pocket for the rehab. And then we can go refi out, burr out a year later, pay everybody back, and everybody makes money. So that's something I really want to kind of prove to myself, because I could see myself doing like bigger syndications and stuff like that in the future, just because it really excites me. And I love like looking at real estate, finding deals and putting things together.
Same.
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah. It sounds like a well-planned 12 months.
Yeah. Yeah. And then also I'm always checking out Biz Buy Sell, like just scrolling through because I'm kind of like on the hunt for a business that piques my interest that we could, add some value to, and like kind of have that be running in the background, because real estate's great, doesn't necessarily cash flow like a business does.
What kind of business do you think you're keeping your eyes open for?
I mean, like literally anything. I'm actually she probably isn't going to watch this, but the lady who cuts my dog's hair, like does the grooming for my dogs, I'm so interested in her business because she's got like a paper book, and she's got like she's booked out like 8 weeks in advance at all times. And she doesn't have like any kind of text messaging, CRMs. Like if it was me, I'd be sending out text messages. Hey, we haven't seen you in 3 months. Like come back and see us. And so I just see a ton of value there. And she's just like a solo person. She's just doing it herself, super, super busy. So I see things like that. And not only can they potentially walk over the payday, but, we can build a business, build some cool systems, and then like even offer to have them, if they want to, like maybe still be a part of it, but kind of get their lives back as far as like their personal side. So that's something that I would love to do. But to answer your question, I don't care what sector it is. I just want to see something that I'm like excites me, and I feel like we could add value and make it better.
And one of the most interesting entrepreneurs that I ever met owned a dog grooming business, but it was a portable one. So cool. He started with just like coming to your home, and then scaled it, and has I think he has 10, you probably seen them around town, 10 Sprinter vans. It's like portable shampoo on it. It's all of them are converted. They're black and pink, big Sprinter vans, and they run all over. And
I've seen those.
Yeah, and they're booked for it's crazy. I don't know, 3 months in advance, like you're saying. And it was just like him doing house calls to just absolutely crushing it. And it's such a cool business to get excited about, just kind of like what you're saying. It's like, man, there's some cool businesses that cash flow and do, crazy well that I would never think of. So I think there's going to be a big shift. Well, it's already happening, where there's an older generation of solopreneurs and things like that that are just getting, they haven't really updated their systems to maybe 21st century and all the things that they could do because it's going really well. But they also want to get out. So I think that's a really, really good look of things outside of real estate to always stay excited and hungry and just become more of a serial entrepreneur like you've already been. So let's dive a little bit about the inner workings of your business and your team. kind of take us through what a customer journey would look like if I was to, fill out an app right now with, Mortgage Apex?
Totally. What would happen is you would probably get connected with us through a realtor partner. And so, you're working with a realtor, they make that introduction. Something that I really believe in is kind of using an online application as a last resort. If someone's really busy or somebody doesn't have the time or whatever, then sure, we'll do it that way. But the best way would be to actually have a phone conversation or invite them into the office and have that application face to face. Because the application asks things like, what's your employment? How much do you have in assets? Very like hard questions, but black and white questions. But it really has lots of opportunities for us to build that relationship and really know their long-term goals and benefit, or really their long-term goals and dreams and all that too. Like when I'm asking about their retirement, I could just say, hey, how much do you have in your 401k? And they say 150,000, and I just enter it and move on. Or I can say like, wow, it looks like you're really working towards like retirement. What does that look like for you? And then they can paint that picture. And now I can change, hey, maybe their goal is to like be completely retired in 20 years. Maybe we don't write a 30-year mortgage, we write a 20-year mortgage instead. So we really try to have we try to front load and spend that time up front so we can provide awesome options throughout the back end. And then once we go through that pre-approval or we go through that application process, we're always going to go and show them like multiple loan options. We'll look at all the different programs available. We'll cross shop it with other lenders, find what's going to be the best price. And then, hey, here's what it is. They'll sign their disclosures. And then at that point, it'll move into our back end where we have a processor to basically go through and do all of the tasks as far as like collecting documentation, making sure e-signs are done, making sure appraisals are ordered on time, making sure that insurance documents are updated, title, all that. So there's all that whole back end part. And that's really been my focus for this whole year, is ironing out that back end and making it a lot smoother. So we use Asana, and it's basically a task manager so that anytime we say, hey, new loan, it'll automatically generate a whole template of, A through Z of all the tasks that need to be done for a loan. And then that processor can just sit there and work the checklist. And if we identify something that's missing, then we add it on there and it makes it a little better for next time. So that's really the plan. And then I still have tasks throughout that process, making sure I'm checking in once a week, making sure that I'm touching base with the realtors, keep that referral partnership strong. And then, stepping in whenever like something needs to be reworked, if an appraisal comes in low, et cetera. And then all the way at the end, we attend closing. If we don't have something like pressing, we're going to attend closing at Mortgage Apex. Very few lenders do that. And I think that really makes a difference. Bring a little gift and then ask for a review. And so that's kind of like the life cycle of the Mortgage Apex process from start to finish. And then we always, when we're at the closing table, it's a great opportunity for us to say, hey, Will, by the way, I'm going to track your loan. I'm going to watch. When rates come down, I will be hitting you up and letting you know, hey, we've got an opportunity to refinance. Yeah, you're probably going to get hit up by other people. Maybe you won't. But I will let you know when it actually makes sense, not just first opportunity, because we want to make sure that, you're actually able to save a good amount of money. That, and then number two is, hey, if you close with a bank, they're going to hope you don't refinance. They're going to keep collecting those dollars. We get paid up front. So it makes sense for us to just, go ahead and look at it. And if we see an opportunity, we're going to jump on it.
I love it. So
definitely sounds like a much more, cared for client, the way you guys do it than, a lot of the deals I've done, where, you definitely don't see a lender at the closing table very often.
Never.
Right.
Honestly, it makes no sense to me why more lenders don't do it, because it's like the best part of the day. Like people are happy. Like we're already busy enough, and there's plenty of stress. Like that's when people are like, you're seeing people say, "Thank you for helping me." Like especially first-time home buyers or like people buying their primary homes. They're so thankful. And a lot of people like shout out to their realtors, but truthfully, like there's a lot of people who think that they cannot get a home. I just did a video on this, like servers, bartenders, barbers, like they make tips and they just automatically think, oh, I can't get a house. It's going to be complicated. It's going to be a hassle because I make variable income. It's like, no, we have systems in place. Like there's a very cut and dry way to do a loan for somebody who makes tips, and we've done it plenty of times. So let's help you. So, having that conversation, instilling that confidence can sometimes lead to them saying, okay, I'm going to do it. And then feeling so good, telling their friends, telling their coworkers. And that is like the fuel that gets me to like keep on wanting to do this business. Cause like the paperwork can get annoying, but seeing the people is what really makes it awesome.
Well, the one thing I'm taking away for that I want to highlight for everyone who's, just business oriented and wants to, be successful in any kind of business they do, you're for your business, you're going with there on the day that's the happiest day of the whole transaction. Like the deal's done, papers are signed, everybody's like kind of in a, happy celebration mode, and who do they associate with that day? Their lender Albert, who's going to be there, and ready for the next one. So, I mean, I think that's really great on your part, because I actually think that probably is why you have such a strong referral base, is because those people just left the party with you being there, and they're going off and telling, but yeah, this guy got me the best rate, ever. So, I mean, I just think that's really good marketing, for your business, it just kind of shows that, you take a little extra time with each client, it really helps on the, back end, because I think that's why when I'm getting calls from lenders who haven't done a deal in forever, begging me to borrow money, like on things, or refinance something I have. And, and your business is continuing to grow, very, beyond just regular, metrics, like, I mean, very rapidly. So, man, I just hats off to you, because, I mean, yeah, you're definitely doing it right. Just a lot of good business practices there.
100%. Giving that personal touch makes the difference. I mean, I think too, the point you said is like, a lot of people aren't thinking of the lender at the closing table. They're thinking the realtor and things like that. But I mean, the underwriting is that's what pushes it. That's what makes or breaks a deal a lot of times, So, more lenders not being there is, kind of looking back, I've never had a lender there. And so now I'm thinking about it, like, why wouldn't they?
We need to like make a hashtag, make lenders attend closing again or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Or maybe not. Maybe that's just why you just, you keep.
Hey, there you
go. So because but
for
hey,
all the lenders out there, that's a little golden nugget, right?
Yeah, I think that's key to get a good referral.
Sure. So I know you touched on it for like the next 12 months. And then you said you want to start getting into syndications and grow. But like, what's that lifetime goal or the end game look like for you? Or how does that look for Mortgage Apex? Kind of walk us through your vision.
I've spent some time building this vision. I had a great friend of mine who is like a total expert at this, and he had an exercise where he asked me a bunch of questions. And the key is when you're building your vision, from what he told me, is to look at your 10-year vision, because then it's truly a vision and you're unburdened by like, oh, that's unrealistic, or maybe that can't happen yet. Like when you're talking 5 years, you kind of still have to have that realistic lens on there. But when you're talking 10 years, like you can get wild with your dreams and your vision. So I spent some time doing that, and basically, I vividly went through. I sat in like a float tank and really thought about what I wanted my life to look like in 10 years, down to like the clothes I was wearing and where I lived and all that, what it smelled like going into my house. But basically, I really I love what I do. I think most of us love certain aspects of our business. So number one, I want to imagine myself, this vision of mine, and work towards this, only doing the thing that I absolutely love in the business, which is for me, like training and coaching. So if I could come in the morning and have a whole team of loan officers and people, and I can just like have that meeting and then break off and do some coaching on like how to be a better loan officer, how to connect with borrowers better, how to uncover their goals and all that. I would absolutely love that. And then all of the admin stuff, I'll have a manager do all the rest, and they can go do that. And then after that, I want to walk out these doors. I'm in downtown Fort Walton Beach. I want to walk out these doors and I want to go eat lunch from my brother. My brother's a fantastic sushi chef. I want to walk across the street or somewhere downtown and walk into his restaurant that I also own and, that we're partners on. And I want to have a delicious lunch from him. Say hi to all those folks, and then get into my Lamborghini Diablo and go pick up my kids from school. and then go home and
you can
be
only
on.
pick up one at a time, though. So you better be an only child on that Lamborghini Diablo.
True. Or, hey, it's fast though, so I can go quick. And then go home, spend quality time with the kids, and have my phone just away. Like everything's handled and good there. So really, that's like my vision is that I want to continue to grow this, spend time on the things that I really love, which is the training and the coaching. And I want Mortgage Apex to be a completely household name. I want everyone in this area to just know who we are, what we do. I want to do things in the community as well. And then really pour into kind of like my brother with his restaurant. Part of that vision is that I see people who work hard and I see people who have value and have a lot to give, but maybe they just haven't been given that chance yet to, build something on their own. So that's another huge thing is like, if I could, basically find the 18-year-old version of myself and say, hey, here's some money, go build this thing, go scale, go get 100 vending machines. Then, I want to be able to facilitate that.
That's awesome.
Definitely love that. So, man, what are probably what's your favorite or top 3 favorite books that you've read that had the biggest impact on your life today that you'd recommend to help people get to where you are?
Yeah, we talked about Rich Dad Poor Dad. I think that's probably the answer for a lot of folks.
Yeah, one.
Yeah. Outside of that, I really love the book Compound Effect. I read that, and it's just like get 1% better every day, and it really, really changes your life. And then there's another one that's not very popular, but was really cool for me, was How to Fail at Almost Everything and Still Win Big. The dude who wrote the dude who is the cartoonist for I think it's Dilbert or Gilbert or something like that. One of the cartoons next to the Peanuts about being in an office. He basically had dozens of businesses that failed before he finally took off and had success. So that was really cool, just seeing hey, failure is not that big of a deal, especially when you're young. And then the last one that was really big for me is The Go-Giver. Have you guys read that one?
I haven't read it, but I do remember another guest bringing that one up. But I'm definitely writing it down as one.
You can read it in the best part about it is you can read it in a day. It's pretty short. But basically, it's instead of being a go-getter and trying to get after everything, you're just providing value, trying to figure out how you can help. And this dude is a connector, basically, and just is, oh, my gosh, you need to meet this guy. And then, it leads to all this. And then, lo and behold, it just inevitably leads to your own success. So I love that. And that's another, cool thing about Pints and Properties is it allows me to be that connector and allows me to help foster these relationships that maybe foster, turn into something bigger and bigger. So I love that book.
Awesome. No, I'm definitely going to add this to my list.
Yeah, I just pulled it up on Amazon right now, so I'm going to order it. So because we had that mentioned in one of the previous episodes too. So definitely need to get with it. So. Man, those are all really good recs. Now, for people that want to start out and do something just like you, what's some advice you would give them if they wanted to kind of emulate that entrepreneurial spirit or become a owner of a mortgage company? What's that first jump?
I would say the first jump is find somebody who's willing to mentor you so you can learn the business, because it would be nearly impossible to just start your own and be successful without that base. So I'm always looking to bring on more loan officers. So if you want to come learn, you got a spirit for learning and you're coachable, then come on, we'll teach you. And then number 2 is just don't, like we talked about, don't let the keeping up with the Joneses be a thing. Just stack cheese, buy a couple properties, even maybe house hacks, so you decrease your rent expense, decrease your living expense, and then you can go and start taking risks. Because you can make $0 for the first few months of being a loan officer. You can totally do well for yourself, but you got to front load. So the biggest thing is kind of having your house in order, making sure your personal finances are good, and then maybe if this feels like too big of a jump, just do something. Maybe it's like starting a pressure washing business. Like I talked about, it's there's so many people are paid to solve problems. So if you can find a problem and then you can find a solution, you think you can do it better, cheaper, faster, just freaking do it. Try it. And if you fail, whatever, like as long as you're not like 65 and I mean, shoot, Colonel Sanders, I think started his business when he was 65, but if you're like under 40, just freaking do it.
Yeah,
no, I love it.
That's great advice. And definitely want to echo what you said on finding a mentor because I think that's great. Really, no matter what kind of business you get in, I know I've always kind of helped get to that little bit next level whenever I've met someone who I knew more than me. And because man, a lot of times, you just don't know what you don't know, and without a mentor, there to tell you what you don't know what you need to know, and so so it's just real important to have, I think have someone who's a couple steps ahead of you, in your life. And then, especially if you're trying to go down a specific career path, having someone who, is already a rock star and, in that realm is, I think real important. So, I mean, I definitely had a lot of great takeaways, from this, just on how to be a better business operator, really taking care of, customers and having that personal touch, to really help grow everything. And I mean, it sounds like, you're really killing it.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Man. I still have a lot to learn, and we still got a long ways to go. But no, it's exciting, and it's awesome that we can make our own destiny. We just got to jump in there and do it, man.
Well, cool. Well, I know Will and I are definitely going to be coming to you so we can get some loan quotes here soon. Once we get through some new construction projects, we'll come to you for some DSCR loans to get those things refinanced.
All right. We'll take good care of you, and hopefully you'll see that we practice what we preach. And if not, you better tell me so we can fix it.
We will keep you guys honest for sure, but we already know it's going to be smooth sailing. So big shout out to Clean Eats, our title sponsor that allows us to connect and get really, really cool sponsors here on the show. But yeah, Sam, where can I find you at?
Yeah, so the best place to find me is on my Instagram at Sam_FloridaMan, or go to www.eliterealestatepodcast.com. You can see the latest episode. You can see past episodes. Definitely sign up for our email list. We're not going to spam you. We're just, but when we do have some good properties, we'll share them with you. And then also, we're always interested in people that want to be private lenders, for us on some of our projects. So that's probably something we're looking for most right now is people that are wanting to get a little bit better return than what they could get either in their savings account or in the stock market. We can definitely help them achieve something a little bit better with real estate and have it be secured by real estate. So it's definitely be secured by an asset. So that's definitely what we're looking for. Albert, where's that everywhere people can get a hold of you personally and check out Mortgage Apex and all that?
Yeah, Instagram, Albert IV and V as in Victor. You can follow me, Mortgage Apex, on all different types of social, Instagram, Facebook. Check us out on mortgageapex.com. You can join our Facebook group, Pints and Properties Northwest Florida Education, I believe is what it is. And come join us at Pints and Properties, first Thursday of every month. We got free beer here and free education, great networking. So come join us. And if you know of any great speakers, and we're always looking to line people up, we're going to have you guys come out and speak sometime soon. And yeah.
Awesome. Awesome.
And then Will, where can people find you?
Yeah, same, eliterealestatepodcast.com. And same thing that Sam said, we'll also just view deals. So like if you guys have any questions, or if you want to try and connect, or, maybe are reaching out through different types of socials and things, but want to make a personal connection, we can definitely connect you guys with guests if it's okay with them, and get you guys started on that journey, or just help you, build on what you already have pre-existing. So super excited for that. And then on Instagram, it's just eliterei.fl, and it's W McClellan. So that's it. Just find me there. And yeah, super exciting. Really, really excited to meet you. We're going to have to come out to Pints and Property. But yeah, thanks for hopping on.
Yeah, hey,
and
thank you guys very much. It was an absolute honor to be here, and I'm so glad that you guys were interested in hearing my story and what we're doing. And yeah, it was a pleasure, and I appreciate you guys having this platform and giving people a voice and also giving listeners something to listen to. And maybe one guest might pique somebody's interest in one way, another might pique their interest another way. But ultimately, man, you guys are making a positive ripple on everybody that's listening to this.
Thanks,
awesome.
man.
Hey, we really appreciate that. So everybody, if you need to get a mortgage quote, please check out our friend Albert here at Mortgage Apex. He will definitely take care of you. He can definitely give you a quote, and give you some feedback on what you need to do to get yourself into that property. So, man, we appreciate you coming on the show, and it was definitely a great episode. So we'll see you soon at a Pints and Properties.
All right, thank you guys so much.
All right.
Thanks.
Cheers.